everyone, I've got Tommy with me here today. Say hello. So this part of the video I'm going to speak about their journey from being born through their time in hospital. So this is probably the biggest video that we're going to do, and it's probably the video that, if any are going to upset me, it's going to be this one. So when they were first born, Conan actually needed resuscitation. He was still in his waters hadn't gone. Tommy's waters had gone, but Conan's hadn't. But he needed resuscitation straight away as soon as he was born. So someone really did save his life at that point. And then they were taken to intensive care. I remember I needed to be able to get out of bed and into a wheelchair to go and see them. So that was my goal, to do that. Jason had seen the boys before me, and he'd show me pictures, and I mean, they were slightly bigger than what I expected. I didn't know what to expect for them being born so early, and for them being twins. And the pictures looked quite scary because they were under a blue light, so it was like an odd colour to the pictures. When I finally did feel well enough to go and see them, I just remember feeling so guilty, and I remember thinking, oh, I feel so poorly, but look what they're going through. They're fighting for their life. And I just remember thinking, come on, just stand up and look at them. So Jason managed to hold me up with the nurse, and I'm so glad that I got to see them on that day. I just remember feeling so hot, like I was going to pass out. Later I had to have 2 blood transfusions, but that was throughout the first week, and after those I felt a lot better. So the boys' main problem, as you all know, was their oxygen requirements. So they started off on the ventilator, which is the tube right down into their lungs. So they had to be quite heavily sedated for this, because it's quite uncomfortable. And if you imagine a baby moves around quite a lot, it has to be exactly in the right place to help them. I mean, if it's just a little bit too far in or not enough, it needs readjusted. And we found this out lots of times, because they often had to have x-rays to make sure it was in the right place, and quite often or not, the boys had been so wriggly that it had come out and gone into the wrong place, or just slipped down a bit too far, or gone up a bit too much. We had Tommy here, who decided to pull his own breathing tube out 1 or 2 times. So yeah, what a monkey. Tommy really struggled to tolerate his milk. At first they were just on tiny amounts, like 1 ml, building up each day or every couple of days, but Tommy just couldn't tolerate the milk at all. He used to get big tummies, and he needed lots of x-rays. It was really amazing, because the x-ray machine would come to the bedside for the boys, so they didn't have to actually transport the boys anywhere to have these x-rays. So he did really well after he managed to tolerate the milk, and he just went up little by little. Conan always managed to tolerate his milk, so he did amazing. We felt at first that, I don't know, that Conan was a little bit smaller, but he didn't seem to have as many bumps in the road as Tommy. Conan did have a situation where, although they fed through a tube, he did have quite bad reflux, so some of the milk came back up, and he got into a bit of a sticky situation where he needed some help, because his body just didn't react very well to this having happened. But the nurse was there straight away, and the doctors were, and they really managed to help him. But obviously it's really scary to see. Throughout their time in hospital, they get their eyes checked all the time, because they're premature babies at a risk of different eye conditions. And obviously with such high amounts of oxygen, it can really damage their eyes. So the lovely eye doctor used to come around once a week and check their eyes. And this was further on in their journey, but if they find out that they need laser surgery, they have to do it within 48 hours. So each time the doctor checked the eyes, he said, Conan's are okay, we'll check again in a week. Tommy's got to stage 2, and he said if they get to stage 3, then we do need to do the laser surgery, and we have to do it within 48 hours. So the doctor came around and checked Tommy's eyes, and obviously he asked us to go into a different room, and he said Tommy needs the laser surgery within 48 hours, otherwise he'll be blind. So obviously this is what took place. Unfortunately, Jason had to be at work. There was no way around it, and I think throughout this whole process, Jason has been absolutely amazing, through going to work so he could support us financially, and having to having to miss out on bits of the hospital journey because he was at work. So in some senses, I think it must have been a lot harder for him than me, because I could be with the boys for every second of each day. So on the morning that Tommy was had his eyes done, I was so upset. It obviously had to be put back onto the ventilator for this because he's fully sedated and he wasn't capable of breathing without any help. And the eye surgery, laser surgery, went really well, and the doctor said it was really, really successful. It did take quite a while, and Tommy got put back into intensive care with the intention that he'd be straight off the ventilator when he came back round and onto the other less intrusive form of oxygen. But unfortunately, Tommy just didn't handle the whole situation very well. Later on, we came to realise that because he has been on quite a lot of steroids to help his lungs, his body didn't produce the right hormone to help him in a stressful situation. So his body, we'll never know if his body fought too hard or didn't fight enough in this situation. And then this went on for about a week, I think. And there was one situation towards the end of the week where he actually was in 100% oxygen, and they'd given him every kind of medicine that they could have done to help him. He was on this machine that wobbled him constantly, and he was just fully sedated. And we called Jason to get him back because we weren't sure of the outcome. And I just remember the doctor saying, we've done everything we can for Tommy now. He needs to really rally round and pull through this, because it's up to him now. And I remember the doctor saying, come on, Tommy, come on. And I stood by Tommy's side for all of it, but I was crying, and the doctors still had to do the work, and I was stood there crying, and all the nurses and doctors were looking after me as well as Tommy. I just wanted to stop crying because I wanted Tommy to know I was there and he could do it. Poor Jason was out in York having a run with the dog, and he was the other side of York, so we literally had to carry the dog home and get back to Hull, because obviously he wanted to do everything super fast. He wanted to be there. But as soon as Jason arrived, Tommy had actually sorted himself out a little bit, and his oxygen had come down, which is what we really wanted, because if the machine's giving him 100% oxygen, there's no room, there's nothing more they can do if he gets into starts to panic. Tommy had swollen up to double the size, and now he was a bigger baby. I know obviously he still wasn't a big baby, but it was very strange to see him fully sedated when he was a much bigger baby. So after that, he managed to work really hard, and he got back to where he was before he had his eyes done. He had his eyes checked, and the laser surgery had been a success. We're still not sure of the outcome for when he's older, if he'll need glasses or not. Another thing to probably mention is when Tommy was first born, he did have a bleed on his brain. But like I say, we're not sure if there will be any problems later on in the line with reaching his milestones and things. But we're just so grateful that he's here. So what else happened, Tommy, during your stay at hospital? Conan had really big hernias that needed operating on, so this was scary too, wasn't it, bud? So he went in for his hernia op on Christmas Eve, and Tommy had never had a hernia till the day after, and Tommy had a hernia, so he went in on New Year's Eve. So after New Year's Eve, we were hernia free. And these are obviously really scary operations too, because they're put to sleep. Tommy got a breathing tube put back in, and they decided, what happened with his breathing tube last time, we can't have that happen again. So as soon as he's awake, we'll get him back onto his other oxygen, like nothing happened. But it turned out when Tommy had his operation, they couldn't get him back off the breathing machine because he was too out of it. He didn't come round as quickly as what Conan had done. So obviously me and Jason really feared the worst, that we were going to be in the same situation as what we were with his eyes. But as the doctors and nurses were wheeling him back from the surgery room, Tommy decided to pull his own breathing tube out. So he was back on his normal oxygen. So we were so happy that he did that. It was a naughty move and he shouldn't have done it. But obviously it got him back to where he needed to be faster. So we spent so much time in Hull, most of our journey in Hull, and we can't thank the nurses enough. At a time when you can't hold your babies or do the things that other mums do, they gave us so much comfort, and they really acted like such a support to both me and Jason, but especially me because Jason was having to go back to York. They really became my friends and family throughout the time, and I can't thank them enough for the love and support they gave, and without them, the boys wouldn't be here. Above all, while they were doing looking after the boys and doing an amazing job, they always managed to make us smile. So what did we have there? I had my birthday while I was there. We had Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and each nurse made it their priority to make sure that these special moments were celebrated. We spent a lot of time at Hull because the boys needed these operations. They had to have the hernia up. Conan had to be a certain weight and a certain size, and he needed to not have so much support from the oxygen. So that's what we were waiting for. And then obviously we were going to try and get a space back at York Hospital when Conan had his operation, but then Tommy had his operation. So that kept us back a little bit, but then we got transported back to York by Embrace, which is an ambulance team, and they were absolutely amazing as well. It's obviously scary having your babies transported back, and they were put back into an incubator because that's the safest way of transporting them, and these boys did not like it. But we got back to York, and York was so lovely. It's so hard going to another hospital after you've been looked after so well. Sorry, my battery light came on then. It's so hard to go back to a new hospital once you've been looked after and loved so much in your previous hospital. But York was just so lovely to us. When we got back to York, it was just about getting the boys well enough to come home. The nurses were so lovely, and one of the problems that the boys had was being sick after they had their milk, projectile vomit. So I know a few nurses at York got absolutely covered, and they chose to, when they had to feed them, they chose to cover themselves in towels just to protect their uniform, because I think you've managed to get quite a lot of nurses. So yeah, we were so looked after at York, and that was only a small portion of our journey, because then the boys did get well enough to come home on oxygen, which we were so pleased about, and we've been looked after ever since at home by our outreach nurse, who we absolutely love, and who got them off oxygen. So that's their journey, just in summarised and condensed down. But yeah, they were just so dependent on the oxygen, and that was our biggest problem. And we did have some scary points throughout. I mean, at one point Conan's lungs collapsed, and doctors and nurses worked so hard to look after him through that point. So we literally can't thank them enough. So that's that bit. I think next time I'll talk about coming home on oxygen and our story after that. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please ask. I'm just going to say that I'm not a nurse or doctor, so I'm only saying that from a parent's point of view. And also my memory of what happened was obviously is going to be blurred a bit because it was such a stressful time and upsetting time. But yeah, thank you for listening again, and let me know if you'd like to see any more videos. Thank you. So bye bye.